Nike didn't simply drop a commercial on Christmas Day, they sent a message. What looked like a heartwarming holiday moment began with a young Caitlin Clark fan calling it the greatest Christmas gift she'd ever received. In just 1 minute, some of the biggest figures in sports stepped forward to challenge a 22-year-old athlete to attempt the unthinkable, and she made it seem effortless. But beneath the star power and flashy moments was something far more important. This ad wasn't about trick shots or celebrity cameos. It was a signal, a subtle declaration that the long-standing rules of women's sports marketing are about to be rewritten. The timing was deliberate, and so was the choice of athlete. Hidden inside that 60-second spot is a blueprint aimed at 2026, one that could elevate Caitlin Clark into the most marketable female athlete in the world while redefining how global sports brands operate. This story goes beyond a sponsorship deal or a viral campaign. It's about how one player forced an entire industry to confront a new reality. And once you understand what Nike is actually building, it becomes clear this moment was never just advertising. It was the start of something far bigger. Long before sold-out arenas wrapped around city blocks and fans scrambled for tickets, before record-breaking performances reshaped the history books, there was a driveway in Iowa. A sold-out crowd fills Evanston tonight as Northwestern hosts the Iowa Hawkeyes, but years earlier, the setting was far quieter. Before executives discussed signature shoe lines capable of generating hundreds of millions in revenue, there was a narrow stretch of concrete in Des Moines and a determined kid who refused to come inside no matter how many times her mother called. While other children escaped the harsh Midwest winters indoors, playing games or watching television, Caitlin Clark stayed outside, shooting until the cold stole the feeling from her hands. This wasn't casual play or a simple pastime. It was an obsession forming in real time, even if no one around her fully grasped it yet. Iowa winters aren't just cold, they're unforgiving. The chill cuts through layers, sinks into muscle and bone, and lingers for months. Wind sweeps across open farmland with nothing to slow it down. In those conditions, a young girl stood alone in her driveway, releasing shot after shot as her fingers cracked from the dry air. Her hands went numb, but she kept going. When her mother opened the door to announce dinner, Caitlin would plead for just 10 more minutes. 10 became 30. 30 stretched into an hour. Meals cooled on the table while she worked on her release, her footwork, her range. Somewhere deep inside, she sensed that these shots weren't only for the next game. They were preparation for something much larger, something she couldn't yet fully name. That driveway, however, wasn't perfect. The concrete sloped unevenly, leaving the three-point arc incomplete on one side. Most kids would have accepted it as good enough. You adapt, work around the limits, and move on. But Caitlin wasn't wired that way. Every glance at that broken arc felt like a constraint on what she could become. So she wore her father down, not with one request, but with constant persistence. She begged him to tear up the grass beside the driveway and pour new concrete so she could have a full three-point line. Eventually, her determination won. Her father, Brent Clark, had recognized her unusual talent from an early age. Together, they ripped out a lawn that had taken years to maintain, mixed concrete by hand, and poured it themselves. It wasn't polished or professional, but it was flat, true, and exactly what she needed. A complete arc. A private laboratory where she could experiment with distance, angle, and release without eyes watching or coaches limiting her imagination. That Iowa driveway became the birthplace of a revolution that would one day reshape women's basketball. What followed defied everything coaches typically teach young players. Conventional wisdom demands fundamentals first, layups before jumpers, free throws before deep shots. High percentage looks build confidence. Range is supposed to expand slowly and safely. Caitlin ignored all of it. When she missed from 15 feet, she didn't step closer. She stepped back. 18 feet became 21. Then 24. Then the three-point line. Then beyond it. Each miss pushed her to attempt something harder. Failure didn't discourage her, it expanded her sense of what was possible. When her father took her to a WNBA game in Minnesota, she returned home changed. She had seen professional women do things she didn't know could be done on a basketball court. The distance, the confidence, the electricity when a deep shot fell. In that moment, something locked into place in her mind, and there was no turning back. After returning to Iowa, Caitlin immediately began training from distances that made no logical sense for a player her age or frame. She wasn't aiming to be solid. She wasn't even chasing excellence. She was trying to become something that didn't yet exist. To outsiders, it probably looked absurd. A thin kid launching shots from the far edge of a frozen driveway while sensible people stayed indoors. But those icy mornings before school and long evenings after homework were quietly reshaping her brain and body in ways coaches had never seen. Muscle memory was forming. Neural connections were hardening. Shot by shot, she was constructing a revolution no one else could yet recognize. Doubt arrived early and never left, and it became her fuel. At every new level, the message was the same: she's talented, but reality will catch up to her. High school evaluators focused on what Caitlin lacked. Too small to play forward. Not fast enough for elite guard roles. Not explosive enough for the top tier of the sport. Scouting reports read like polite dismissals: limited upside, depends too much on long-range shooting, game won't translate against stronger defenders. The skepticism followed her everywhere, spoken quietly in gyms and written plainly in evaluations questioning whether her style could survive against bigger, faster athletes. What those critics failed to grasp was how she processed doubt. They assumed it would weaken her. Iowa head coach Lisa Bludder saw something different long before the records piled up. Lisa knew Caitlin was built differently. Every warning that she wouldn't survive the next level sent Caitlin back to the driveway to shoot from even farther out. Rejection never stopped her. It gave her direction. Each doubt pointed to exactly what she needed to prove wrong. Her high school teammates watched in disbelief as she drained shots from areas most players wouldn't dare attempt. What looked like reckless decision-making was actually intentional expansion. She wasn't taking bad shots. She was redefining what a good shot could be. When college scouts first came to watch her play, confusion spread through the stands. This didn't resemble traditional basketball. She was shooting from zones that weren't supposed to exist, and converting at rates that broke statistical models. Coaches started calling one another. Recruiting circles buzzed about a player from Iowa who treated the three-point line like a suggestion. Programs that once passed on her suddenly wanted in, but Caitlin had already decided. Iowa was home. Iowa was where she had built herself. That same cycle repeated at every transition. Analysts claimed her high school success wouldn't hold up against Division I defenses. She shattered records. WNBA scouts predicted professional defenders would neutralize her range. Then draft night arrived. The Iowa star was projected as the #1 pick. In her rookie season, Caitlin Clark didn't just adjust, she transformed the league. She generated $36 million in economic impact for Indianapolis alone while breaking 62 league records. The criticism never changed. Wait until the competition improves. Wait until the pace increases. Wait until she faces real athletes. And Caitlin's response stayed the same. She kept making shots from distances designed to silence disbelief. Then came the commercial that revealed everything. Nike doesn't release ads on Christmas Day by accident. That slot is reserved for their most valuable athletes and most important messages. When Nike launched the From Anywhere campaign on December 25th featuring Caitlin Clark, it wasn't subtle. This wasn't a women's basketball commercial. It was a Nike commercial, the kind historically reserved for LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and the rare athletes who transcend their sport. Watch the structure closely. Travis Kelce questions her range. She hits the shot. Jason Kelce doubts the distance. Same result. Travis Scott picks an absurd spot. Nothing but net. Each celebrity represents the same assumption, that there must be a limit somewhere. And every time, Caitlin answers with calm precision. Nike didn't invent this storyline. They documented the pattern that has defined her entire career. The brilliance of the campaign runs deeper than shot making. Nike understood Caitlin's psychology. Doubt isn't a vulnerability for her, it's a weapon. When defenders back off the three-point line, she moves to the logo. When they press the logo, she pulls up from 35 feet. Every defensive adjustment becomes motivation to stretch her range even farther. The commercial mirrors this escalation perfectly. Each challenge grows harder. Each response makes the impossible look ordinary. The final image delivers the real message. A young girl watching, understanding, believing from anywhere isn't just about basketball. It's about possibility. It's about a kid in Iowa, Indonesia, or Ireland seeing someone who looks like them do what was supposed to be impossible and thinking, maybe I can too. Nike didn't sign Caitlin Clark because she shoots from deep. They signed her because she represents the end of limitations, the collapse of the idea that women's sports can't command the same cultural force as men's. This campaign isn't selling shoes. It's selling a future Caitlin is actively creating. After one game, Caitlin signed her game-worn shoes and handed them to a young fan named Nora. Moments like that hint at what the numbers later confirmed. Caitlin Clark didn't just impact the WNBA, she redefined its scale. Her rookie season produced $36 million in direct economic impact for a single city. One player accounted for nearly 27% of the league's total economic impact in 2024. That isn't stardom. That's infrastructure-level influence. The ratings tell an even clearer story. Games featuring Caitlin drew viewership spikes rivaling men's professional sports. Indiana Fever broadcasts reached levels the league hadn't seen in decades. Networks that once treated women's basketball as filler programming began competing aggressively for rights. The industry didn't just notice Caitlin Clark. It reorganized itself around her. When Caitlin went down with an injury, the impact was immediate and undeniable. Ratings didn't dip slowly, they fell sharply, visibly, measurably. She missed 4 games with a groin injury, then returned on a limited minutes restriction, logging just 28 minutes in her first game back. In that stretch, the league learned a hard truth. Having a player who can score from anywhere isn't just exciting television. It fundamentally alters the entire business ecosystem. Caitlin shattered 62 league records in a season where injuries limited her to just 13 games. Let that settle. 13 appearances. 62 records. Even in a partial season, her presence alone was enough to rewrite history. Assists, three-pointers, total points, clutch moments, categories that had stood untouched for years fell one by one. And this wasn't even peak Caitlin Clark. The fully healthy version hasn't arrived yet, and the numbers are already without precedent. That reality forced a shift in how the industry talked about women's basketball. Analysts began using language rarely, if ever, applied to the WNBA before. Franchise cornerstone, league-altering force, generational talent, marketing phenomenon. The discussion moved beyond whether women's basketball could succeed commercially. Instead, it focused on how fast the infrastructure could grow to keep up with the demand Caitlin was generating. The question was no longer whether people would watch. It became whether there were enough screens, platforms, and broadcasts to serve everyone who wanted in. Spring 2026 marks the next inflection point, the launch that changes everything. Caitlin Clark's signature Nike shoe is scheduled to debut that spring. After one game, she signed her game-worn shoes and handed them to a young fan named Nora. But reducing what's coming to just a shoe release misses the magnitude entirely. This moment represents women's basketball crossing into a new economic era. Industry voices, including analysts like Nick DePaula, have projected the franchise could reach 9-figure revenue territory. Not millions, potentially hundreds of millions, even more across the lifespan of the partnership. The shoe is expected to rank among the top 5 signature basketball franchises overall, across both men's and women's sports. Nike CEO Elliott Hill has been explicit about the strategy. This rollout won't be rushed. Every detail is deliberate. The logo, the silhouette, the colorways, the storytelling, the grassroots activation. Nothing is incidental. Because this isn't a typical endorsement. It's Nike making a long-term declaration about the future of women's sports marketing. They're not chasing a moment. They're constructing a legacy meant to endure for decades. Caitlin herself has been deeply involved at every stage, ensuring the product reflects exactly what she wants it to represent. The timing is no accident. By spring 2026, Caitlin is expected to be fully healthy and once again dominating the WNBA. The league continues to grow at historic rates. Viewership keeps setting new records year after year. The anticipation created by her injury absence has only intensified demand. Fans who watched her reshape the game in 2024 are eager for what comes next. Nike is aligning the launch to hit precisely when excitement reaches its peak. The From Anywhere commercial was the teaser. The signature shoe is the centerpiece. Yet Caitlin's vision diverges sharply from the traditional superstar blueprint. Most signature athletes focus on maximizing personal gain. Sign the deal, build the brand, cash the checks. Caitlin sees something larger. She's using this platform to expand access to girls' basketball worldwide. Her stated mission isn't personal wealth accumulation. It's opportunity creation. The shoe isn't just merchandise. It's a symbol meant to inspire belief. What truly sets Caitlin apart is how she plans to use the influence she's building. The signature line is designed to connect directly with grassroots basketball initiatives across the globe. The program will support international growth in regions where women's basketball barely exists today. China has already been identified as a key focus, with plans to visit and engage young athletes. This isn't about creating Caitlin Clark as a corporate empire. It's about lifting the entire sport alongside her rise. That philosophy shows up everywhere in her career. Watch how she speaks about her teammates, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, Kelsey Mitchell. Caitlin consistently redirects praise, amplifies others on her social platforms, and resists centering herself in every narrative. Where many superstars guard the spotlight, she widens it. The signature shoe rollout is built on the same principle: growth that includes everyone. Nike has already laid the groundwork with her signature apparel line, hoodies and sweatpants featuring the CC logo, available in both adult and youth sizes through Nike and major retailers. The apparel is only the base layer. The real shift comes with the shoe. Because when it arrives, it gives every young girl chasing a hoop something tangible that represents belief. Wearing Caitlin's shoes isn't just about performance gear. It's about belonging to a movement that says greatness can come from anywhere. As revenue grows, so do resources. More clinics, more programs, more visibility in markets that have never had it. Caitlin doesn't view the numbers as wealth to collect. She sees them as tools to deploy. Every pair sold funds expansion. Every campaign opens a new door. Every record shattered sends a signal to the next generation that the limits they were told existed never actually did. The economics of women's basketball are shifting in real time. And Caitlin Clark is steering that shift toward impact rather than excess. What began as a kid shooting alone in the Iowa cold has evolved into a force that's making an entire industry confront decades of ignored potential. This isn't just the ascent of a generational athlete. It's the collapse of outdated assumptions about value, visibility, and inevitability. A commercial, a contract, a season approaching. Each one signals something larger taking shape. As 2026 nears, women's basketball isn't asking for validation anymore. It's moving forward with confidence, evidence, and belief. And when the next wave of players starts pulling up from far beyond the line, in driveways, gyms, and frozen concrete corners around the world,